Okay, hi there. I'm Darryl Whetter, Professor Darryl Whetter from the Université Saint-Anne in Canada, formerly of I was the inaugural director of the MA Creative Writing at LaSalle College of the Arts in Singapore. Today I'll be I'll be delivering a talk called True Caregiving Stories Well Told. Various recent publishing successes, from Rachel Cusk to Sheila Heti to Karlova Knausgaard to Ben Lerner to Martin Amis, suggest the vibrant intersection of autofiction and the memoir in the 21st century, that epoch of social media and the selfie. This paper and reading from an in-progress memoir posit the memoir as a caregiving genre, one where survivors' tales help heal the surviving former caregiver, e.g. the memoir author, while also offering commiseration, if not hope, to readers along the spectrum of caregiving, from parents to adult children caring for parents to creative writing instructors, especially those in nonfiction, the genre of this project. Having first written about my father's rare and debilitating neurological disease as a young writer and a young man for my own creative writing master's thesis into 12 years later, my 2008 debut novel, The Push and the Pull, I am now, after 4 books of fiction and 2 of poetry, revisiting that disease and its bent men in my first memoir. Prompted in part by my recent and now reversed cross-planet move from Canada to Singapore, to be the consciously child-free inaugural director of Singapore's first creative writing master's program, and my nearing the age at which my father prematurely died, my memoir quotes my debut novel, in part to illuminate the universality of loss, but also the lacunae of my younger fiction. When I congratulated Angie Abdu, fellow novelist professor, on publishing her first memoir after 5 books of fiction, my comment, on social media no less, was multiply right for each of us. "No mask," I wrote admiringly. "Exactly," she replied, "no mask." Professor Robin Hemley, former director of the nonfiction program at the University of Iowa, notes in his 2012 A Field Guide for Immersion Writing, "Memoirs by ordinary people have been with us for a long time, but at my parents' day, they used to be known as first novels. Rather than simply switching from examining syringomyelia, my father's rare and crippling disease, first in fiction and now in nonfiction, my memoir in progress repeatedly quotes my first novel, including in intimate portraits of the suffering father's body." This textual dialogue between a young writer's first novel and a middle-aged writer-professor's first memoir, much like the palimpsestic relationship between Jeanette Winterson's midlife memoir, Why Be Happy When You Could Be Normal, and her debut novel, Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit, affords a dynamic re-examination of that disease while aligning the memoir with the autofictional novels of Cusk, Heti, Ben Lerner, Amis et al., and also foregrounding nonfiction's true stories' well-told gravitas. At the risk of, to borrow terms from marketing, of being all sizzle, no steak, I will soon read briefly from my in-progress memoir. Before I read from my caregiver/survival memoir, Soldiers 2, I should also add that a currently unseen side to this triangle is my brand new, hot off the presses Routledge anthology, Teaching Creative Writing in Asia, a book that wouldn't exist without Creative Writing Studies Organization founding member Graham Harper, the Routledge Creative Writing Series co-editor, so thank you, Graham. In the question period, I'm happy to expand on many of us who have launched CW programs in Asia, that once STEM educational landscape that is opening to steam during the age of social media and the selfie, how we often find teaching nonfiction in Asia more fruitful, I'm not quite saying easier, than teaching fiction. All right, enough throat-clearing sizzle and context. Here's a little from my memoir in progress, Soldiers 2, a memoir of love, death, and intercontinental silver. If you can reach up and scratch the top of your head, your cerebellar tonsils are sitting obediently above a rear brain border called the foramen magnum. Anyone unlucky enough to be born, like our father, with a Chiari malformation in the brain can usually last into their early 20s, as he did, before discovering that the cerebellar tonsils had previously herniated and swollen over into the spinal canal. Pick your mythological or historical allusion for breaking on through to the other side. Caesar's Rubicon, Pandora's Box, or Sun-Chasing Icarus. The Windsor-Detroit border of my second novel examines the intersection of different laws for alcohol, marijuana, strippers, and prostitution. We 2 professor sons and our how many lovers, my brother's daughters, the thousands of university students we have taught between us over the decades, How many have been knowingly or unknowingly influenced by whatever rogue chromosome stepped across borders in our father's brain then spine? The Chiari malformation in Dad's cerebellum was almost certainly present at his birth, though it went undetected for more than 20 years. Like my second novel, our father's brain had border issues. Keeping Things Whole is set where the bracelet was forged, in the border city of Windsor, Ontario, just opposite Detroit. Where my fictional smuggler would wrestle with, embrace, and initiate his own very different family opportunities and curses, my father's brain started his and ours. It's no accident I finally see that when I stumbled into teaching, having, I thought, purposely avoided our father's beloved profession, the first two analogies I used for critical essay writing involved bicycles, the subject of my first novel, and skeletons, the subject of much of my life. Every body paragraph I've told 20 years of students, first with the Dad bicycle novel in progress, then forthcoming, then published and fading, is a bicycle wheel. Notice and serve the hub, the assertion for the paragraph. Stretch it out if you want to stay upright, let alone move forward, with several spokes of citation and analysis, of reckoning. Roll forward a section of the wheel, the central argument. Just before I started this manuscript, not book, the real origins of books are slow, deep, and rarely discernible. I also told yet another class, though my first in sweaty Singapore, about the bone, muscle, and skin of a formal essay, and I'm just going to have to skip over that for the purposes of this conference excerpt. Both nature and nurture gave us Whetter sons the work ethic necessary to thrive in doctoral programs then at the whipping post that is contemporary academia. Our busy professional mother endured the doubly unequal housework of being a woman in the 70s and 80s, while her husband went from mild to severe physical limitations. All that, and she also revamped her nursing college diploma and regular upgrading courses with a night school BA in sociology, as first one son, then another went off to university, then her nominal husband into private care. On the living room couch, Mum juggled coffee cups and highlighters with textbooks on her lap, in dinner or a nap, often both, timed by the stove. Still, the drive behind my brother's 3 books and dozens of articles on medieval literature must, I privately wager, like the long, over-caffeinated hours of our doctorates, stem in part from the winged chariot of our father's ruined body drawing near. Dad died, horribly, in the middle of his life and at the real start of our adulthoods. Gather ye rosebuds, we learned early and often, alongside paradoxical lessons in planning for the future, however unwelcome it might be. Most of us know so little of how our amazing bodies work, but trickle-down medical science surely puts spine, heart, and brain at the top of our cringe and pucker lists. Who can differentiate the site or function of all those slick members of team digestion? Kidneys, those glistening puce fruits, the vermicular spleen, the flank steak of the liver, what exactly do they do? Still, we all worry about the spine. Would we have cared so much in the 19th century before electricity changed both the species and the planet? The spinal cord. Let nothing sever or fray the cord. The personal computer our dad, ever the teacher, brought into the home in the early 80s, I adore my 64, would initiate our increasingly wired lives brokered between the prosthetic souls of hard drive and network. My collection of poetry about the love that dare not tweet its name, which is probably illegal as pornography here in Singapore, quotes novelist and multimedia artist Douglas Copeland's line, "I miss my pre-internet brain. I often miss mine too, you quaint old thing, you, concentration." Though I'm also acutely aware of how differently we all might have lived with our dad's freakishly rare condition, syringomyelia, if the web had existed before the 90s. How much easier it might have been if we could have reached out to anyone who'd even heard of the disease outside upper year classes at med school. Every family, it seems, has lost someone to cancer. You've met diabetics. Your elementary or secondary school may have had someone who was legally blind. Practically the default to picture a grandparent with Parkinson's or Alzheimer's. Allergies and asthma you get. The top results in a Google search for syringomyelia rate Canada concerns syringomyelia in the Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. When an obscure dog breed gets more Google press than your dad's disease, welcome to uncharted territory. Assuming, as we so often do, that affliction rates are similar in Canada and the US, one estimate finds just 18.4 cases of syringomyelia per 100,000 humans, not spaniels that are both knights and kings. Show don't tell remains, for better or worse, the creative writing mantra. My first novel, The Push and the Pull, tries to show plenty with that rare disease. Whether we like it or not, a journey remains the archetypal story. My first novel depicts a journey by touring bicycle, That Second Skeleton. When teaching fiction writing, if I have enough time and the students aren't in their first workshop, I still assign John Garner's beautiful On Becoming a Novelist, or, less frequently, his The Art of Fiction. Many other writing profs now prefer books that are either more touchy-feely or more bullet-pointy, or, shudder, both. In writing circles, Gardner is famous for being Raymond Carver's formative teacher, and for reminding us that the following gem has been attributed to everyone from Shakespeare to Dostoevsky to Tolstoy. There are only two plots in all of literature: someone goes on a journey, or a stranger comes to town. My first novel, If Not My Life, finds its hero going on a journey in large part because a stranger came to our father's spine. Here I am, these decades later, still running in hectic Singapore.